some revision on what we did last week. So some quick revision. We're not going to spend long on it, okay? We're not going to spend long on it at all. We're going to have a look at what we spent our time on last week. The question says, sort the following numbers in ascending order. So first of all, we need to go and we need to make sure we understand what the word ascending means. So the word ascending, okay, if somebody can tell me in the chat what ascending means, that would be great. What does ascending mean? Who knows what ascending means? What does it mean when they want you to do ascending? Good. Smallest, smallest what? Smallest going up. Good. So ascending means to go from smallest to biggest. All right, smallest to biggest. Fantastic. Now, last week, lots of you asked me, ma'am, do we have to do this on a number line? Like I said to you, you don't have to do it on a number line. If you know what the smallest numbers are and you can put them to the biggest numbers, that's great. For me, I like to have them on a number line just because it helps me sort my numbers out. So I'm going to put small little number lines for myself. I always like to put the number 0 because that helps me out when I'm doing negatives and positives. My first number is negative 50, so I would say negative 50 is somewhere over there. Then I've got 35. I'm going to put 35 somewhere over here. Then I've got 61. 61 is definitely bigger than 35. Then I've got the number 8. And then I've got the number 19. So if I'm looking at putting the numbers from smallest to biggest, I'm going to look at the number that's furthest on the left of the number line. Because remember, when we did number lines that last week, that's what we saw. The number furthest on the left of the number line is negative 50. Then I have 8. Then I have 19, 35, and 61. All right. So I hope that is familiar to you guys. I hope that rings a bell from last week. Okay, moving down to our next question. Right, next question, we're still going to sort in ascending order. So we're still sorting in ascending order. So I'm going to go and put my number line in here quickly for myself. All right. I'm going to go put my number line in for myself quickly. All right, so I draw my number line in. I tell myself where the number 0 is. Remember, this is revision from last week. All right, this is revision from last week. So we're just practicing what we did last week. Right, so my first number there is the number 60. So I'm going to put 60 over there. Then I've got negative 75, negative 36, negative 13, and then I've got the number 91. All right, and if we remember our negative numbers, we know that we can go that as we move from the 0, okay, it's almost like the opposite of the positive numbers. So from the 0, we would go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. But on the negative side, we would go 0, negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4, negative 5, and so on. So sorting it from the smallest to the largest, we're going to go from the left to the right. So negative 75, negative 36, negative 13, 60, and oh dear, I've run out of some space here, so let's just give myself some space. Oh dear. Oh no, it doesn't want to let me use the eraser now for some strange reason. Okay. Sorry guys, it's doing a weird thing here today. Okay, so 60, and then I've got 91. All right, the last one, I'm going to let you do that last one by yourself quickly, and I'm going to answer any questions if there are any. I'm just going to say before I answer questions, if you're not sure what we're doing here, all right, this is revision from last week. So if you're not sure what we're doing here, you need to go back and you need to watch last week's videos. You can find them on the Watobe sites, all right, or you can find them on YouTube. So I'm going to answer 2 questions that are here while you're doing that last one by yourself. So, Sia, how can I help? Sia, you unmuted. How can I help? Sia Bonga, you have your hand up. How can I help?
Hello, ma'am.
Hello, how can I help?
Ma'am, I was a bit late, so can you please repeat 1 and 2?
Okay, Sia Bonga, all we're doing is we are putting these numbers on a number line. Okay, if you were a little bit late, don't worry. The lesson will be on YouTube and it will be on Watobe's website, so you can go back and you can watch from the very beginning. We're just doing some revision. All right. Ada, I've unmuted you. How can I help?
Hello, Miss. I wasn't here last week and I don't know how to do this. We haven't done this at school yet.
Okay, so what I would suggest, Ada, because you weren't here last week, go onto Watobe's website. Do you know how to find the videos on Watobe's website? Okay, I see you've gone off. All right, so if you go onto Watobe's website, all the videos are there. If you can't find the video on Watobe's website, you can go onto YouTube and the video will be on YouTube as well. Right, I'm going to answer one more question. Bushle, how can I help?
Hello, ma'am. How are you?
Fine, and you?
Ma'am, I understand everything that you're saying, but ma'am, I don't
Fantastic.
understand. But ma'am, the problem is that you see when you said -75, I know that the deeper left you go, the number gets smaller, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
So ma'am, kind of sometimes a bit lost when it comes to with this one, ma'am.
Okay, which one's smaller? All right, I get it. I get you. Okay, let's have a look. All right, I'm going to put you back on mute. Okay, cool. I'll get you. All right, so Bushle is saying it's a bit confusing that from what I'm understanding, Bushle, is that 75 is a really big number, but the fact that -75 is the smallest number is a bit confusing. Am I right? Nod your head if I'm right. Yeah? Okay. All right, so the thing is that if we had to put those numbers on a number line, let's have a look at the next one quickly. So here's a number line, okay? Here's my 0. All right, my first number is 23. So I'm going to go put 23 on this number line quickly. Now I know that the opposite of 23, okay? The opposite of 23, I'm going to put them in red quickly for you, Bushle, okay? The opposite of 23 would be -23. So I would come here, okay, and the opposite of 23 would be -23. The same as the opposite of 1 would be -1, hey? Okay, so 75, let's say the number was 75 was here. 75 is a big number. I agree with you. It's the biggest number on this line, all right? But if I had to have the opposite of 75, it would be sitting over here at -75. So the opposite of the biggest number, which would be 75, would be sitting on the other side, and it would be -75. It would be the smallest number on that number line. All right, so the furthest away you get from 0, it gets even smaller. The same as the furthest you get away from 0 on the right-hand side, it gets bigger. The furthest you get away from 0 on the left-hand side, it gets smaller. It's kind of like how when you first started learning how to do numbers, that's how we learned how to do it. The furthest you got away from 0 on the right-hand side was the biggest, but now the furthest you get away from 0 on the left-hand side, it gets smaller. All right. Keep practicing. You got this. You got this. Okay, I'm going to do the answers here. So you should have gotten -56, -45, -12, 23, and 97. So well done. Okay, well done for those of you who had got it right. Congratulations. Let us move on to our next section. So Mr. Hugo is going to drop your hands. I will answer some more questions a little bit later for you. All right. Unfortunately, not all of the questions can get gotten to you at the same time, but remember that Mr. Hugo is here and you can ask him questions in the chat as well. Right, so a little bit of revision about additive inverse, that additive inverse word. Right, so additive inverse was a fancy way of saying opposites. Right, so in maths, the fancy way of saying opposite is additive inverse. Okay, the fancy way of saying opposite is saying the additive inverse. So let's go put our additive inverses for our questions here. Right, the additive inverse for the number 5 will be negative 5. Okay, the additive inverse for negative 28, the additive inverse for negative 28 will be 28. Right? The additive inverse for 1 will be negative 1. And you fill that table in for me quickly. You fill the rest in. Do not put the answers in the chat. Please don't put the answers in the chat unless I ask. Okay. All right. So I've given you a few minutes. All right. Good to see you all working. I'm loving it. Well done. Right, let's have a look at your answers. So the additive inverse of negative 9 should have given you 9. The additive inverse of 9 should have given you negative 9. And look at this, they've given us a decimal answer here now, right? We haven't worked with any decimals before with negative numbers, but the additive inverse of 0,85 will be negative 0,85. So well done, everybody. I see some answers. People did put some in the chat, so well done. Okay, let's move on. All right, so the next question says, give the additive inverse of each number. Oh, and then my instructions got cut off there, so sorry. And then use it to complete the sum. All right, so A, the additive inverse. So the first thing says negative 7. The additive inverse of negative 7 will be what? Who can tell me? Good, nice. The additive inverse of negative 7 will be 7. Right? And so if I put it into my sum, guys, to make sure that it's right, we're going to say 7 plus negative 7. So if I had to say 7 plus negative 7, what should it give me? It should give me 0, hey? So 7 plus negative 7 will give me 0. Good. So let's do the next one. Number is 1. The additive inverse of 1 is negative 1. All right. And now when we go and write it in our sum, everybody, I want you to concentrate. So let's stop writing everything in the chat. Let's concentrate and look at our screen. Okay. When we fill it into our sum here, we're going to say positive 1 plus, and in a bracket, we're going to say negative 1. So positive 1 plus negative 1 will give me 0 again. So a number plus its additive inverse should always give you 0 is what we're looking for here. So if we move to the next one, our next one is negative 85. The additive inverse for negative 85 will be positive 85. And so we've got 85 plus negative 85 will be equal to 0. Do you see how that negative 85 is written in a bracket? Have a look here. Do you see how they write it in a bracket? Okay, because when we say plus a negative number, they're going to always put it in a bracket so we can see the difference. Okay, number D, negative 100. The additive inverse for negative 100 is positive 100. Now we have some options here. Okay, we can either go and say negative 100 plus, and in a bracket, so I'm going to show you what we could do. In a bracket, we could say plus positive 100 like that, but that just looks silly, all right? It looks messy. It doesn't look like maths. It looks terrible. We know that that 100 already has a plus on top of it. And so there is our positive sign there. So you've got negative 100 plus 100 will give me 0. Why didn't I have to write the brackets this time? Why did I not need the brackets? Because the number was already positive. Why would I only need to write brackets? I would need to put brackets when the number is negative. Okay, or if the sign was different. So let's have a look in the next one. I've got 14. The additive inverse of 14 would be negative 14. So now let's look at my sum. Now my sum says 14 minus something gives me 100. So 14 minus 14 will give me 0. So in this case, what had they done for us already? They had already put the sign outside of the brackets. So we didn't need to put our brackets in. Because if we put our brackets in, then it would have made the sum really confusing. But because they had already put the sign in there for us, we could just say 14 minus 14 gave me 0. Right, I'm going to move the screen to the other side for you so you can give this a go now. Right, and I'm going to answer some questions for you. So let's have a look at some questions. I've got Bradley. Bradley, it should ask you to unmute your screen. How can I help you?
Ma'am, I can't understand the additive inverse when you put the negative the positive number with no brackets. For why did they do that?
Okay, Bradley, so the reason, if you don't understand why they put the brackets.
Yes,
Say it
ma'am.
again for me. Okay, so Bradley, I'm going to mute you again quick and then I'll talk. So the reason why they're going to put it into the brackets, they only put it into the brackets if it's got a negative. If it's got a positive, then we leave it by itself, unless the sign on the outside of the bracket is different to the sign on the inside of the bracket. So have a look at doing some by yourself quickly, and then we're going to correct them and we're going to see how it goes. So give yourself a chance to try them by yourself. Okay, if you're still confused when we ask questions again, then I'll go through it with you again. Okay. All right, Unati, how can I help?
Hello, ma'am.
Hello, Unati, how can I help?
Ma'am, by the active inverse, does it always have to be the answer 0?
Yes, when you're adding the number to its additive inverse, it must always equal 0. So if I've got the number negative 5, for example, the additive inverse of negative 5 will be 5. Hey, do you agree? Yeah. Okay. And so now I'm saying to myself, something minus negative 5 equals 0. So now this one's a bit confusing, Artie. Could you agree? Because I'm saying something minus negative 5. Always before we were saying like 7 plus negative 5, 1 plus negative 1. Do you know what I mean? Now all of a sudden we're saying something minus negative 5. Can you see the difference between the two sums? What have they done? What's different here? What's different? They've gone and they've added a minus sign instead of a plus. Can you see? Can you see? They tried to trick us. Can you see? Okay, so what must we say here instead? We must put negative 5 minus negative 5 will give me 0.
0.
Okay. All right, it's a tricky one.
I understand.
You understand? Good. I'm glad or not.
I saw.
Keep trying, keep going through them,
Okay.
okay? Good. All right, I'm going to answer one more person, and then if you're still struggling, you can ask Mr. Hugo in the chat as well. Shay, how can I help, Shay? Shay, you unmuted, how can I help? Okay, I think maybe Shay, I'm going to try once more. Shay, can you hear me? All right, I think maybe Shay, you might have a problem with your sound. If you want to send Mr. Hugo a question, that's cool. All right, Kanya?
Hello, ma'am.
Hi, how can I help?
Ma'am, I wanted to ask how you get 0, but you're mixing two numbers and they're not both positive, negative. So I wanted to ask how you get 0.
Which one is that for, Kanya?
All the sums, ma'am, you always get 0. So I wanted to understand how you get 0.
Okay, Kanya, so when you take a number and you add it to its additive inverse, so when you take a number and you add it to its opposite, all right? So like if you say the number 1 plus negative 1, all right? Then what number you're going to get? You're going to get to 0. If you take the number 2 and you add it to negative 2, so you take the number and you take its opposite, you're always going to get to 0. So like the one I've just put on the board now, the number G, for G, negative 4,200, all right? The additive inverse for negative 4,200 is 4,200. And when you take 4,200 and you add it to negative 4,200, it doesn't matter. You're always just going to get to 0.
0.
Okay, so when you take a number and you take its opposite, when you take its opposite, it's additive inverse, all right? It's always going to give you 0. Okay, Kanya, your sound is cutting out a little bit. Can you hear me still? All right. Okay, everybody, I will answer some more questions a little bit later on. Let's have a look at the rest of these. So we've got negative 4. The additive inverse of negative 4 would give us 4. Okay, so when we're putting our answers in, we're going to have 4 plus, in brackets, negative 4 gives me 0. Okay, another one of these tricky ones where they threw in a negative here. So they give me 55. The additive inverse of 55 will be negative 55. All right. So if I say 55 and I leave my negative sign there, so minus 55, it will give me 0. Okay. All right, moving on. 9, the additive inverse for 9 is negative 9. So if I put that into a sum so that I can get my answer, okay, if I put that in a sum to get my answer, I'm going to have either, I could say, brackets, negative 9 plus 9 equals 0. So I could write it that way. Or I could say 9 plus negative 9 equals 0. Either way I can write it. Either way, I will get the same answer. A nice rule for us to always know in mathematics is the following. Okay, it's the following rule. It's that when I see a positive and a positive sign next to each other, all right, when I see a positive and a positive sign next to each other, and some of you might have done this in school yet, some of you might not have, okay, but when I see a positive and a positive sign next to each other, I'm going to go to that one first because I always find that one a little bit easier to do first. So a positive and a positive sign next to each other, I know that the answer will always give me a positive. So for example, right? Earlier on, we had some sums, so we saw things like negative 4 in the brackets, plus, and I said to you, having positive 4 like that wouldn't really make a difference to us. Why? Because we've got a positive and a positive sign. So what do we know if we see a positive and a positive sign? Instead of writing it like that, what could we do instead? We could just say, so instead of writing that, we could just say plus 4 would give me 0. Okay. This is a really nice thing for you to screenshot, guys. It's very useful. If I see a positive and a negative sign next to each other, when I see a positive and a negative sign next to each other, I know that the answer is always going to give me a negative. So for example, okay, when I saw something like this, when I saw 8 plus negative 8. Okay, 8 plus negative 8. What did that mean when I had 8 plus negative 8? Well, when I see the plus and the minus next to each other, what do I know I need to go and do? I need to go and tell myself, well, I'm seeing a positive and a negative sign next to each other. And when I see a positive and a negative sign next to each other, they're going to cancel each other out, and I'm going to be left with a negative number. So I'm going to be left with 8 minus 8, which will give me 0. If I see a negative sign and a positive sign next to each other, what do I get? I'm still going to get a negative. The negative sign is very, very powerful, guys. A negative sign is very, very powerful. So, for example, if I have 8, so if I have negative 8, let's say, negative 8 minus positive 8. Well, let's change this a little bit. Let's say it's 8 minus positive 8. So I've got 8 minus positive 8. Right, I tell myself I see a negative sign and a positive sign next to each other. And when I see a negative sign and a positive sign next to each other, I go and I draw a circle around them. Okay, when I see two signs next to each other, I draw a circle around them. If the two signs are different, then I know what's going to happen. They're going to turn into a negative sign. So 8 minus 8 will give me 0. And finally, the last one that we've got here is the power of the negative number. So when I see a negative sign and a negative sign next to each other, it's always going to give me a positive. Okay, for example, right, if I've got negative 12 minus negative 12. Right, I see that I've got a negative sign and a negative sign next to each other. So I like to draw a circle around them. The moment I see a negative sign and a negative sign, I know they're going to cancel each other out. And that sign is going to become positive. So I have negative 12 plus 12 will give me 0. Okay, so let's go and put that into some practice, because writing it can sometimes be a little bit confusing, and when we see it in practice, it makes a lot more sense. Let's have a look at what we're going to do. So I'm going to do A with you guys, and then you're going to go practice some in B. Okay. So 3 plus 3, we know that one. 3 plus 3, we've been doing that one for a while. 3 plus 3 is going to give me 6. 3 plus 2, really nice and easy. 3 plus 2 is going to give me 5. 3 plus 1 is going to give me 4. 3 plus 0 is going to give me 3. So all of those really nice and easy. We shouldn't have had any problems there. It's when I get to these ones a little bit later on. So we're stopping, we're seeing, I've got 3 plus, and in a bracket, I've got -1. So the moment that I see a positive sign and a negative sign next to each other, what did I say you needed to do? You needed to stop. Okay, I need to draw a circle around my 2 signs. Right, the 2 signs are different. One is a positive, one is a negative. What does the power of the negative do? The power of the negative makes the whole sign negative. All right, so when I have a positive sign next to a negative sign like that, I draw a circle around it. I tell myself, when I have a positive sign and a negative sign next to each other, I stop. What does the negative sign do? It makes the sum a negative sum. And so now I can carry on. 3 minus 1 is going to give me 2. Right, my next sum there, I'm going to do the same thing. I've got 3 plus -2. Again, I see a positive sign and a negative sign next to each other. I need to stop. I need to draw a circle. Draw a circle around those signs. I see a positive sign and a negative sign next to each other. When I see a positive sign and a negative sign next to each other, what happens, guys? What happens? A positive sign and a negative sign turns into a negative sign. It's the power of the negative. And so 3 minus 2 will give me 1. Okay, I'm going to let you carry on trying some of these sums, and I'm going to answer some questions if there are any. All right, so you guys carry on trying the sums. I do not want you to put the answers in the chat, please. So please don't do that. All right, in the meantime, let's have a look at your questions. So whose hand have I got up here? Ndine, how can I help?
Hi, ma'am.
Hi.
Ma'am, I want to know, like, do we go with the positive or negative?
Okay, so when you see a positive sign and a negative sign next to each other, you draw a circle around them, and then you say to yourself, if the signs are different, if there's a plus and a minus, the sign will always turn into a negative. Always, always, always.
Oh,
okay.
Thank
So
you, ma'am.
if it's a positive and a negative, the sign will always become negative. If it's a positive and a positive, the sign will always stay positive. And if it's a negative and a negative, the sign will stay positive.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Okay, you're welcome, no problem. All right. Buya, you are unmuted.
Oh, ma'am, I wanted to ask, I don't understand how the brackets, you say 3 plus 3 negative, and then you say it's a minus. I don't understand how that became a minus.
Okay, let's have a look. You watching? You with me?
Yeah.
Okay, let's go. I'm going to leave you on unmute, so you're with me. Okay, so I see 3 plus -3, okay? Okay, so I'm seeing a plus and I'm seeing a minus. What did I say to you when you see a plus and a minus next to each other? What must you do when you see the plus and the minus next to each other? What must you do?
You draw a circle.
Good, you draw a circle. So let's draw a circle. All right, so I'm drawing a circle around those sides. Right, so now I'm seeing I got a positive sign and a negative sign. What happens when I've got a positive sign and a negative sign, when the 2 signs are different? Okay, what's the sign going to become when the 2 signs are different?
A negative.
Good, a negative, good. So I'm not going to see these signs anymore. They're going to disappear. And what's it going to become? It's going to become a negative, okay? Nice, well done. Okay. So now I've got 3 minus 3. What's 3 minus 3?
0.
0, good. Okay, I'm going to do one more with you on the call, okay? I know your sound's going a bit funny, but that's okay. We're going to do one more together. All right, the next one. Do I see a positive sign and a negative sign next to each other?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So what do I do?
You draw a circle.
Fantastic. I draw a circle. So I stop. I draw a circle. Okay. What happens when I see a positive sign and a negative sign next to each other? What's that sign going to become?
It turns into a negative.
Fantastic. Well done. It's going to turn into a negative. So we're going to get rid of those, and it's going to become a negative. So now I've got 3 minus 4. And 3 minus 4, if we go back and we use our number line to help us, we know that 3 minus 4 is going to give me negative 1. Is it making a bit more sense?
Yeah, thank you.
Fantastic. You're welcome. Okay, I'm going to do some more of these, and then I will answer some more questions just now. Okay, so I've got 3 plus negative 5. I know what's going to happen. I'm going to draw a circle around these. They're going to go away. It's going to become a negative. 3 minus 5 gives me negative 2. 3 plus negative 6, I'm going to draw a circle around these. They're going to become a negative. 3 minus 6 is going to give me negative 3. 3 plus negative 7, I'm going to draw a circle around these. They're going to cancel each other out. It's going to become a negative, and 3 minus 7 gives me negative 4. And finally, the last one, you should have got negative 5. So if we move on and we have a look at C, okay, C is a little bit easier because there's no brackets or anything like that. So I've got 6 minus 4 is going to give me 2. 6 minus 6 is going to give me 0. 6 minus 6 again, 0. 6 minus 10, I can go use my number line like we did last week, and 6 minus 10 gives me negative 4. 6 minus 12, I can go use my number line like I did last week. It gives me negative 6. And 6 minus 14, we use our number line like we did last week, and I get negative 8. Okay, let's have a look at D, which is a little bit trickier. All right, so let's have a look at D, which is a little bit trickier. So let's do these sums together. These will be the last ones we're going to do together for tonight. Okay, so I've got negative 1 plus 5 is equal to 0. So these are a little bit difficult, guys, or different. Okay, these are a little bit different because the signs are not right next to each other. So can I draw a little circle here? Nope, because they're not right next to each other. So I'm going to go give myself a little number line over here. And I'm going to have here negative 1, and I'm adding. So I know I'm going to move to the right. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and I would carry on and on and on. Okay, so negative 1 plus 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I would end at 4. All right. Now my next sum says negative 2 plus what gets me to 3? Negative 2 plus what gets me to 3? So can I use a number line here again? Yes, there is nothing wrong with using your number line, guys. Number lines are going to save you, all right? Number lines will save you with these types of questions. So I'm going to go draw a number line down here for myself quickly. I've got negative 2, negative 1, 0, 1, 2, 3. So I need to ask myself, negative 2 plus what gets me to 3? So from negative 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I said negative 2 plus 5 will get me to negative 3. Okay, my next sum, negative 3 plus 5. So if I do my number line and I say negative 3 plus 5, negative 3 plus 5 will get me to 2. Right, negative 3 plus 5 gets me to 2. What plus 5 gets me to 1? What plus 5 gets me to 1? Now, is it possible that I could shuffle my numbers around a little bit? Yes, it is, and we're going to learn about that in Wednesday's lesson. So remember, we do have a lesson on Wednesday. On Wednesday at 5 o'clock, we will have another lesson and we will learn about shuffling our numbers around a little bit. But we can shuffle these numbers around a little bit and we can say 5 minus what will give me 1? 5 minus 4 gets me 1. Negative 5 plus 5, we know that one. We practiced it today. Negative 5 plus 5 gives me 0. And finally, negative 6 plus 5 will get me to negative 1. Negative 6 plus 5 will get me to negative 1. All right, Mr. Hugo is going to put up our poll for today. Remember that on a Monday, we always have a poll. So Mr. Hugo is going to put up our poll for today. Okay, please make sure that you answer the poll before you leave the lesson. So make sure you answer the poll before you leave the lesson. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put up our brain break question for today. And I will be answering some questions before I leave the class as well. So here is our brain break question for today. If you do have some questions as well, I will be staying in to answer those questions for you. Otherwise, you are more than welcome to leave the class. Thank you so much for coming through today on your public holiday. I really hope you guys have a good day at school tomorrow. And we will see you again on Wednesday. Have a good day, everybody. Bye. All right. So the first question I've got here is Izakete. How can I help?
Yes, ma'am. I didn't understand anything here.
You don't
I
nothing,
don't know.
the whole lesson?
Yes.
Oh,
Because
dear.
I have a
Okay.
bad network. Because I have a bad network.
Okay,
Yes.
so my suggestion is it, do you know how to find the videos on Watobe?
No, I don't know.
Okay, so on Watobe's website, you know where you normally go to find the link for your lesson and for your quizzes? They will be on Watobe's website. Otherwise, on YouTube, if you look up Watobe on YouTube, you will be able to find the lessons on YouTube. I will go and get the link for you now while we are. Oh, I can't get the link because I've got you guys in front of me. Let me see if I can find the link for you and I will put it in the chat for you, okay? And then you go onto YouTube and you'll be able to find all the videos there.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay, and then go watch the video from today, see if you understand it, and then come back on Wednesday and then you know that you've covered yourself from last week's lesson and today's lesson, okay?
Okay, ma'am. You will be here on Wednesday or other teacher?
Yes. No, I will be here on Wednesday.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. See you on Wednesday. I'm going to put the link for you right now in the chat, okay?
Okay, good night.
Good night. All right, there we go. Okay, Bushle, how can I help, Bushle?
How are you, ma'am, again?
Good. What's up? How can I help?
Ma'am, at school, ma'am, they told us that positive plus positive is positive. The negative
right.
the negative plus negative is negative.
Yeah, that's right.
So, ma'am, I don't know if it's the network because I heard you saying negative plus negative equals to positive.
No, let's have a look. Let's see here what we did. So we said positive times by a negative gives me a negative. A negative times by a positive gives me a negative. A positive times by a positive is a positive. And a negative times a negative is a positive. Same as at school. Exactly the same.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, promise, not different, I promise. Okay, maybe, do you know how to take a screenshot on your device?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, take a screenshot of that so you've got it, then you won't forget. Okay, have a good evening. See you on Wednesday.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, bye. All right. Imanati, it should ask you to unmute your screen. Oh, Imanati's gone. Okay. Tandeka?
Hi, ma'am.
Hi, how can I help?
Ma'am, I didn't understand the part where the numbers were mixed.
Where the numbers were mixed. So this one down here.
At number D.
These ones.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so for these ones, you really need to think to yourself, okay, if you put them onto a number line, would it make sense if we put them onto a number line rather? Okay, so when you put them onto a number line, can you do the maths then? So for example, like we did the first one, if we were at -1 and we had to add 5, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, where would we end up? We would end up at 4. Okay, if we had to put this -2 on a number line, okay, how would we get to 3? We would add 5. So the best way to do it, do you like number lines or not?
I do, ma'am.
Yeah, me too. Number lines are the best. Number lines help with everything, hey? Okay, so the best way to do it is to practice your number lines. When you come back on Wednesday, we're going to do a lot more practice on how to do these mixed ones, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Lots and lots of practice, I promise. All right, so I promise I'll see you on Wednesday and we're going to do lots more practice on those ones.
Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome. Have a good evening. Have fun at school tomorrow.
Thanks. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, Awangwe, it should be asking you to unmute your screen. Here we
Hi,
go.
ma'am.
Hi, how can I help?
Ma'am, I wanted to ask, ma'am, I do not quite understand, ma'am, the one where you have to like circle the positive and negative. Then, ma'am, what do you do from then on? Ma'am, but like I want to like understand the opposite. Like I understand the positive and negative is gonna always give you a negative, but I don't understand like if it's the negative first, then it's the positive, ma'am. I don't understand from then on.
So let's give an example. So do you want to give me, do you know an example or do you want to think of an example?
I mean, you can think of an example.
Can I think of an example? You're so kind, hey? Thanks. Okay. Let's think. So if I had what? If I had like negative, oh dear, my pen is going crazy now. It's telling me school's finished. Okay, let's see. It's if I had oh, it's still doing crazy things. Okay, let's try once more. All right. If I have -4 like that, minus +2 like that maybe, equals that kind of sum. Oh, I'm gonna unmute you. Let's see.
Yes, ma'am.
That one, perfect. Okay, cool. So I'm seeing I've got a negative sign and a positive sign. You tell me, what must I do first when I see two signs next to each other?
Ma'am, you must circle the positive and negative.
Good, because I've got two signs next to each other and I can't do maths like that, hey? So I circle it.
Yes,
okay,
ma'am.
what happens when the two signs are different? What happens when the two signs are different? I cross them out.
Yes, ma'am, you cross them out.
And it becomes a negative, hey?
Negative. Yes, ma'am.
Good. So when the two signs are different, I cross them out and it becomes a negative.
Negative.
Good.
So, ma'am, it
so
still remains the same.
Exactly. So now I've got -4 minus 2. So what's -4 minus 2? It'll give me
negative 2.
6.
How are you?
Oh, you're not sure? Should we do it on a number line quickly?
Yes, ma'am.
Let's do it on a number line. Let's put on a number line. It's okay. So let's go. Here's -4. Tell me, when I'm minusing, do I move to the right or do I move to the left if I'm minusing?
Let me move to the left.
I move to the left. Good. So I need to -2. So 1. That gets me to -5. 2, hey?
Yes.
-6. So my answer will be -6.
Ma'am, can I quickly copy it down?
Of course you can. Or you can take a screenshot.
Ma'am, how do you take a screenshot?
Oh, I'm not sure which device you're using. But copy it down. I'll leave it on the screen for you. I'm going to leave it on the screen. Okay. Okay, cool. I'm going to put you on mute. Okay. Thank you. Hope you understand now. All right. I'm going to answer 2 more questions for tonight, guys. 2 more questions. So I've got Blossy. How can I help?
Hi, Miss.
Hi, how can I help?
I missed the adding inverses. Can you just scroll up, Miss, so I can screenshot it?
Okay, I'm just going to let somebody was just, Owange is just taking down this part of the question quickly. So I'm just going to give her 2 seconds more. Owange, I'm just going to go up so he can screenshot it, and I'm going to come back down for you. Okay. Owange, I can see you. She's trying to copy it down quickly, quickly, but I'm going to come straight back for you. Okay. So I'm going to go up to adding inverses. Okay, you're going to tell me where to stop. Was it here?
Yes, miss.
Yeah, there we go. Do you want to take a screenshot?
And miss, can you also go a bit lower?
Bit lower, sure. Have you got it?
Thank you, miss.
You're welcome. See you on Wednesday.
Bye.
Okay, moving back down. Bye. Okay, one more question and then we are done for the evening. So I've got Shlomela.
Yes, ma'am.
How can I help?
Ma'am, I don't understand the question that we did before the end of the Zoom. So
The
6.
lesson.
Yes, ma'am.
The
So
challenge. The
yes, ma'am.
challenge. Yay,
Yes, ma'am.
good. I'm so glad. Good. Yay, somebody's asking about the challenge. Let's go have a look at the challenge. Well done. Okay, let's see. You ready? Talk to me.
Yes, ma'am. So I don't understand the scissors times the scissors times the scissors equals to 64.
So, the scissors times the scissors times the scissors. So what number times what number times what number gives me 64? Now remember, we were doing exponents in our last section, hey? In our last section, exponents. So what times what will give me 64? The number is what? What to the power of 3 gives me 64, in other words. What about the number 4?
Okay.
What about 4 times 4 times 4?
It's 64.
Ah, okay. So now my scissors are all what? They are all 4s, hey?
4s. Yes.
Okay. Does that make sense?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so now I've got 2 of the wrenches times by the scissors equals 45. All right.
Yes, ma'am.
You think, will that help you out a little bit more?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, come and check in with me again on Wednesday, because on Wednesday we're going to do the answer, okay?
Okay, ma'am.
Okay, I'll see you on Wednesday.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, you're welcome.
I just wanted to another question. The lesson, the other lesson, the revision.
Yeah.
The 6 minus 10 equals to -4. How is it?
Okay, let's go have a look.
How is
Let's
it -4, not 4?
Okay, let's have a look. So 6 minus 10
Minus
equals. All right, what's the best way to do integers? What should we do with integers? Put them on a number line, hey?
The number line.
Always on the number line. So here's my number line. Right, here's the number 6. And I'm going to go give myself some other numbers because I know I'm minusing. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Uh-oh, my number line's not big enough. Make it a bit bigger. -1, -2, -3, -4. Okay, so I'm at 6, hey? Here I am over here.
Yes, ma'am.
And I need to minus. When I minus, I move to the left, hey?
Left. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
10.
Where do I end up?
-4, ma'am.
-4. Does it make sense?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, always use a number line, okay?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
All right, you're welcome. Okay, everybody, I'm so sorry we didn't get to all of your questions this evening.